The galaxy had always been a place of noise and conflict. Alien empires waged wars over power, resources, and dominance. Planets were claimed and lost in a constant struggle. But amidst all this chaos, there was one planet that remained eerily quiet: Earth. Humanity had kept to itself for centuries, watching from the sidelines as the galaxy tore itself apart. For the galaxy's most powerful empires, Earth was a forgotten world, a small, insignificant speck in the vastness of space. To them, humanity was weak. They had no advanced technologies, no powerful fleets, no desire for conquest. Earth was silent, and that silence was mistaken for weakness. The alien leaders talked about Earth in hushed tones, dismissing it as a planet that had no part in the grand galactic drama. They thought humanity had no interest in space exploration, no hunger for power. The galaxy believed that humans were a quiet species, content to remain unnoticed, living out their days in peace. But Earth's silence was not what it seemed. Beneath the surface, humanity had always been waiting for the right moment to strike. A quiet storm, gathering strength over time. Humanity's leaders knew the galaxy underestimated them. They knew the empires would continue to fight, amongst themselves, distracted by their own greed. And they knew that Earth's silence, though seen as a flaw, was actually its greatest weapon. In a hidden facility on Earth, deep in the heart of a forgotten continent, a warship lay dormant. Its design was ancient, predating even the earliest space explorations of humanity. It was a ship that had once sailed the stars, a vessel so powerful that it could crush entire fleets with ease. But it had been abandoned. For centuries, it had gathered dust and rust in a secret underground hangar, forgotten by all but a select few. The galaxy had no idea that Earth possessed such a weapon. They saw humanity as insignificant, harmless, and incapable of standing up to the might of the alien empires. But the ship, now fully operational, was about to change everything. The crew of the warship was small, but they were the best of humanity, chosen for their skills, their bravery, and their unshakable belief in their mission. These were the men and women who had volunteered for a task no one else could imagine. They were the ones who had trained in the shadows, learning to command the most advanced and deadly ship in the galaxy. They knew what the rest of the universe didn't. Earth's silence was not weakness. It was strategy. For years, the ship had remained hidden, its weapons untouched, its engines silent. But now, the time had come. The crew had been waiting for the signal, the moment when the galaxy's arrogance would reach its peak, the moment when humanity would reveal its true strength. And that moment was fast approaching. The alien fleets, scattered across the galaxy, continued their endless battles. The Emperor's forces, in particular, were growing bolder. They had taken control of multiple systems, crushing any resistance that dared to stand in their way. They were unstoppable, or so they thought, but as the warships of the alien fleets grew larger and more destructive, a new power was about to rise. From the dark depths of Earth's history, a weapon was about to awaken. A weapon that would show the galaxy that humanity's silence was not an invitation for conquest. It was a warning. The warship, now fully operational, powered up its systems. The engines hummed to life, and the ship's weapon systems glowed with deadly energy. The crew, gathered in the control room, exchanged silent looks. They knew this was the moment they had been waiting for. Far above them, in the great silence of space, the galaxy continued its endless dance of destruction, but no one knew that just beyond their reach a storm was brewing. A storm that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. And in that moment, humanity's silence was broken. The ship's massive engines roared to life, sending shockwaves through the silent atmosphere of Earth. It was a sound unlike any the galaxy had ever heard. The signal had been sent. The warship was ready. The universe would soon learn that Earth had not been silent because it was weak. Earth had been silent because it was waiting, and now, humanity was about to speak. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. While the alien empires fought for control, plotting their next moves, humanity's warship lay ready. For centuries, Earth had been nothing more than a quiet planet, unnoticed and overlooked. But that was about to change in ways no one could have predicted. In the heart of the galaxy, the Emperor's fleet was at the peak of its power. With every victory, they grew bolder, more confident. The Emperor had declared that nothing could stand in his way. His ships were massive, their firepower unmatched. The galaxy was his to command, and he intended to leave no room for anyone to challenge him. But Earth was still a distant memory to him, a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Humanity's silence was a joke. It was easy to ignore a planet that didn't fight back, one that chose to stay hidden from the rest of the stars. The Emperor had never given Earth a second thought. His fleet, powerful as it was set on expanding its reach, believing nothing could stop its advance. Then something happened. The warship, hidden beneath Earth's surface, powered on, its energy levels rising. The crew, a small but determined team of humans, looked at each other in silence. This was the moment they had prepared for. They were outnumbered, but they had something the alien fleets didn't: resolve. Their planet had been quiet for too long. Now it was time to make their voices heard. The first message went out, a signal so powerful that it traveled across the stars, reaching the Emperor's fleet. The galaxy had heard only the sounds of battle, the roar of engines, the clash of weapons. But this was different. This was a message of pure power, a sound that cracked the silence like a thunderclap. The Emperor's fleet didn't react at first. To them, it was just another minor transmission, perhaps from a planet long forgotten. But as the signal continued, they felt something shift. The edges of their control began to fray. The arrogant confidence they had lived with was starting to waver. They had overlooked Earth for too long, and now it was coming back to haunt them. As the Emperor's ships continued their campaign, one vessel far in the distance stood still. It was the warship from Earth, the one they had never expected, never prepared for. The ship didn't send another warning. It didn't need to. The first message had been enough. The Emperor felt it, a chilling realization creeping over him. Earth was awake. He dismissed it at first, certain that this could be no threat. After all, what could a single ship from a weak planet possibly do? The Emperor scoffed. He was untouchable, and Earth was beneath him. He ordered his fleet to keep advancing, to continue their conquest, as though nothing had happened. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The galaxy's attention was slowly turning towards Earth. Whispers spread across the star systems. The once-forgotten planet had sent a message that made even the most powerful fleets hesitate. No one knew what to make of it. No one knew what it meant. Back on Earth, the warship's crew watched as the vast emptiness of space stretched out before them. Their fingers hovered over buttons, ready to unleash the power they had been trained to wield. The warship was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol. It was the embodiment of humanity's strength, its quiet resolve, and its unexpected fury. The silence had been broken. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. What followed next would shake the stars to their core. As the warship moved silently through space, it became clear that humanity wasn't just waiting for a fight. They were waiting for the galaxy to underestimate them. And now, the time had come. With a single command, the warship's engines ignited, and for the first time in centuries, the ship moved into the vast unknown. The dark silence of space was pierced by the rumbling roar of its engines. This wasn't just any warship. This was humanity's voice, and the galaxy was about to hear it. The warship glided silently through the void, its enormous hull casting no shadow in the dark expanse of space. For years, humanity's greatest weapon had been hidden, sealed away like an ancient secret. But now, the time had come to reveal its power. The crew's hands were steady, their minds focused. This wasn't just a battle for Earth. It was a battle for the galaxy's future. As the warship moved deeper into the galaxy, it became apparent that humanity's presence was no longer being ignored. The Emperor, still in the midst of his campaign, had sent scouts to investigate the strange signal from Earth. But what they found was no distant communication. It was a warship full of life, full of purpose, and full of fury. The first scouts were overwhelmed almost immediately. They had no chance. The warship's advanced weaponry tore through their ships with ease. The Emperor's fleet had never faced anything like it. The scouts, whose ships had once been symbols of invincibility, now lay broken and smoldering, floating in space like forgotten wreckage. The galaxy was starting to notice something terrifying. The silence from Earth was not only over, it was deadly. The Emperor himself watched in disbelief as his scouts failed to report back. He couldn't believe it. How could Earth have such a powerful ship? He had written them off as insignificant for so long that he couldn't fathom how they had prepared such a threat. His arrogance had clouded his judgment, and now humanity was proving him wrong. Earth's warship didn't wait for the Emperor's fleets to make the first move. Instead, it sent a clear message with its attack. It wasn't just about defeating the enemy, it was about sending a warning. A signal that would echo across the stars, telling everyone who heard it that humanity was no longer to be underestimated. The warship's engines roared as it fired its first volley of missiles into the unsuspecting fleet. The missiles traveled through space at blistering speeds, leaving trails of white-hot energy as they cut through the emptiness. The first wave of enemy ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. It wasn't just destruction. It was a statement. The galaxy had thought humanity was weak, that it was too small to be a threat. But as the first strikes of humanity's warship began to obliterate the alien fleet, the Emperor's once unshakable confidence began to crack. He ordered his remaining ships to retaliate, but it was too late. The warship was already in position, its weapons charging up for the next attack. Humanity had taken the first step, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the warship's cannons unleashed their next devastating wave, the aliens who had watched from afar felt the weight of the destruction. They saw the firepower that Earth had kept hidden for so long. They realized that this warship wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's silent strength, its hidden might. And then, as the smoke cleared from the debris of the destroyed fleets, something shocking happened. The Emperor, in a moment of desperation, decided to make contact. He had underestimated humanity for far too long, but now the truth was undeniable. He sent a transmission, pleading for an explanation. "Why?" he demanded. "Why did you wait? Why now?" The warship's crew, silent for so long, now spoke in a single, simple response. "We were waiting for the galaxy to grow too confident, waiting for the moment when the universe would finally realize that humanity was more than a quiet planet. It was a species that, when pushed, could unleash unimaginable power." And with that, the Emperor's last bit of hope for victory vanished. The galaxy, once so sure of its dominance, now faced a new kind of threat, one it had never seen before. Humanity, the silent species, had awakened, and they had come with a vengeance. The Emperor's once great fleet was now in shambles. Broken ships floated in space like discarded toys, victims of a power they could not comprehend. The warship from Earth had crushed them one after another with devastating precision. The universe watched in stunned silence as humanity, a species that had been dismissed for centuries, proved its might. Word of the attack spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Whispers turned into frantic reports as every empire, every faction, every leader scrambled to understand what had just happened. The galaxy had never seen a force like this, and no one knew if they were ready to face it. The Emperor's pride had taken a brutal hit. He had long believed that nothing could challenge his dominance, and now one warship had shattered that belief. His advisors urged him to regroup, to pull back and reassess the situation, but the Emperor, blinded by rage, refused to back down. His fleet had been humiliated, and he would not rest until humanity paid the price. As the Emperor prepared for another assault, the galaxy grew restless. Leaders of distant star systems, once too afraid to speak out, now saw an opportunity. Humanity's warship had shown them what was possible, what they could do if they stood together. Some began to consider alliances, some to question their loyalties. No longer was the Emperor's power unquestionable. The balance of the galaxy was shifting. Back on Earth, the warship's crew stood on the bridge, watching the galaxy unfold before them. The silence that had once defined their species had been shattered, replaced by the roar of engines and the hum of weapon systems. The warship, though still operating under strict orders to remain hidden, was preparing for its next move. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. The time for waiting was over, but the crew knew something that the galaxy didn't. This was just the beginning. The first strike had been a message, a warning to the Emperor and all those who thought humanity could be overlooked. But there was more to come. The warship's true purpose was not merely to show the galaxy that humanity was strong, but to show them that humanity had the will to take what was theirs. With each passing day, the Emperor's desperation grew. He could feel the galaxy slipping from his grasp. His fleet, once invincible, was now in disarray. The galaxy's eyes were turning toward Earth, and the Emperor knew he could not allow this challenge to continue. He needed to act, and fast. In a secret chamber aboard his flagship, the Emperor issued his orders. A new plan was set into motion, one that would bring the full might of the galaxy's most powerful fleet against Earth. But this time, it would not be just a direct assault. No, the Emperor had learned from his mistake. This time he would lure humanity into a trap so deadly that even the mighty warship would fall. The stage was set. The trap was laid. The Emperor was preparing to strike with everything he had, and he believed the galaxy would finally be his once again. However, what the Emperor didn't realize was that the moment he underestimated humanity's power, he had already lost. The warship was ready, its crew prepared for whatever came next. Humanity's response would be swift, unforgiving, and far more devastating than anything the Emperor could imagine. As the galaxy teetered on the edge of a new era, humanity's warship waited, silent, patient, calculating. The galaxy had seen nothing yet. The thunder was still coming. The galaxy was on the brink of collapse. Empires that had once been united by fear now found themselves torn apart by doubt. What had seemed like an unstoppable force, the Emperor's fleet, was crumbling under the weight of its arrogance. But the Emperor, in his fury, refused to surrender. His plan was set. He believed humanity was a threat, but he still underestimated the true depth of their resolve. The Emperor's fleet assembled once again. His ships, massive and menacing, filled the vastness of space, their weapons primed for destruction. The trap had been set. The Emperor had lured humanity into the perfect position, deep within the heart of the galaxy where escape would be impossible. His forces surrounded Earth's warship, anticipating an easy victory. The Emperor's grin spread across his face as he saw the human vessel in his sights. He believed the warship was all that stood between him and ultimate domination. The Emperor's plan was simple: crush Earth's last hope with a decisive strike, obliterate their symbol of power, and prove once and for all that no one could challenge his reign. But what the Emperor didn't know was that the warship wasn't alone. As the enemy fleet closed in, the warship from Earth activated its final defense, an ancient beacon buried deep within its systems, hidden even from its crew. The beacon was more than a signal. It was a signal sent out to the deepest reaches of space, calling upon the forgotten allies of humanity. Those who had once feared the Emperor's wrath, those who had seen humanity's strength and feared its silence. One by one, ships began to appear in the distance. They were not Earth's fleet, not yet. They were distant allies, scattered across the galaxy, united by the belief that no single ruler should ever hold all the power. From hidden star systems and long-forgotten outposts they emerged, ancient warships from the oldest civilizations that had once been crushed under the Emperor's iron fist. The Emperor watched in disbelief as the first ships came into view. They were outnumbered, but each one was a symbol of resistance, of defiance against his reign. These ships had been waiting for the moment when humanity would rise, waiting for the spark that would ignite the fire of rebellion across the galaxy. The warship's crew watched as the battle unfolded. They knew the time had come. Their weapon was no longer just one ship. It was the call to arms for every oppressed world in the galaxy. With the beacon signal, humanity had become the spark for a galaxy-wide revolution. The trap that the Emperor had set for humanity had turned against him. The warship's engines roared as it launched forward, leading the charge. The combined fleets, human and alien, united by a common cause, struck with devastating force. The Emperor's fleet, though massive, was scattered and unprepared for the fury that was unleashed upon them. The tide of battle turned in an instant. The Emperor's ships exploded in the stars, torn apart by the might of an alliance that had been forged in silence. The Emperor, now in a panic, watched as his fleet disintegrated around him. Desperation gripped him, but it was too late. The galaxy that had once trembled in fear at his name now rose up in defiance. The warship from Earth, now joined by countless others, brought the Emperor's empire to its knees. And then, as the last of the Emperor's ships fell, a final transmission was sent to the galaxy, a message from humanity. It wasn't a boast. It wasn't a declaration of victory. It was a promise. "We have waited," the message said, "but we will not be silent again." The Emperor was gone. His empire, a symbol of fear and domination, was no more. In its place, a new era was born, one where no species would be underestimated. Again, humanity had shown the galaxy that silence was not weakness but a weapon, and when the time came, that weapon would bring about victory. The warship from Earth turned its engines to face the stars once again. This time, humanity wasn't waiting, they were leading, and the galaxy would follow.